There are certain things in programming that are considered hard. One of those things is cache invalidation. And cache stampede is a problem that can arise if you revalidate your cache entries when they become stale. Let's start with a simple cache, work our way towards the problem and see how we can mitigate it. Here in the middle we have our service. Let's assume a request comes in, and then, because our cache is empty, we need to get the data from the database. So we make a request to the database, and this will return the response in maybe 3 seconds. When we got the response, we can put it into the cache and return the response to the user. When another request comes in, we have the data in the cache and can just return it. Now this is all fine if the entry in the cache does not get stale. So let's consider another scenario where the cache can get stale. As before, we get the first request in and we need to fetch the data from the database. After we put it into the cache, we can return it to the user. As before, when the data is already cached, we can return it from the cache. When the entry in the cache got stale, we have to refresh the data from the database. So we make another round trip, put it into the cache again and return it to the user. To calculate the value we want to put into the cache, we need some time. Now let's consider that multiple requests come in while we calculate the new value for the cache. Another request comes in and we don't see the value in the cache, so we go to the database. Another request comes in, same thing. You can see the pattern here. And this is what we call cache stampede. Because it takes so long to recalculate this new cache value, all the upcoming requests trigger the same revalidation. And this in turn will lead to a problem. The database is getting overloaded with requests and cannot respond in a timely fashion. How can we mitigate this problem now? There are different techniques to this. One is locking. When the first request comes in, we of course have to calculate the value. While we recalculate this value, we lock the cache entry. So if other requests come in, they have to wait until the first one gets its result. As soon as the result has come in, all the responses can be sent out at once. But what if we had multiple instances of the same service? Now you would have to have a distributed cache and a distributed locking system. Another technique is called stale while revalidate. When the first request comes in, we still have to calculate the cache entry. And the upcoming requests can get the data from the cache. Now let's assume that the cache entry got stale and a new request comes in. This will trigger the revalidation of the cache entry. But the request will not get blocked. Instead, it will get the stale value from the cache. And while this revalidation is in progress, every upcoming request will also get the stale data. When the new value got calculated, we can put it into the cache and the upcoming requests can be served with the new updated cache value. If you have multiple instances of your service and all the cache entries are getting stale at the same time, this mechanism will not solve your problem that multiple instances will try to fetch the new data from the database. Another approach is the probabilistic early expiration. Let's ignore the responses for now and concentrate on the staleness of the data. Let's assume that a request comes in just when the data is getting stale. Let's assume that we have a fixed time interval between every cache refill. When we have multiple instances, they could trigger the revalidation at the same time. So what we can do is subtract a random value between each revalidation. This way, even if we have multiple instances, they will not trigger the revalidation all at the same time. So we get a natural distribution over the load to the database. Of course, there is no one-size-fits-all solution here. It really depends on your use case. It depends on whether you have a local cache or a distributed cache. If you want to allow certain overlaps, maybe when multiple instances get a request in, you could allow that they revalidate the cache at the same time. But I think you got the idea of what the cache stampede problem is and what different techniques there are to solve the problem. Let me know down in the comments if you already had this problem in the past and how you solved it. That's it for today, guys. I hope this video was helpful for you, and see you another time. Bye bye.